Hey everyone, and welcome back. To finish up our look at advanced selections, I want to show you one of my favorite features in Photoshop and a new improvement that is received this year in Photoshop CS6. That of course is ColorRange, which allows you to single in on a specific color in your image and turn it into a selection. As you're about to realize, this is great for those who are looking to isolate a color and turn the rest of the image black and white. In this first example, we're going to do exactly that. We're going to attempt to isolate the red color in the guard's jacket, leaving everything else black and white. Our first step is to access the Color Range feature, which can be found under the Select menu at the top of your workspace. Once the Color Range window appears, we need to select our color of choice. Under the Select dropdown, Photoshop does include a few of the basic colors to choose from, but unless your color is 100% solid, these options may not give you the best results. Notice what happens when I select the red preset. In the preview at the bottom of the window, the rule of thumb is that everything in white will turn into a selection and everything black will be left out. Because the jacket isn't 100% solid red, the sampling is very faint, which will result in a poor selection. This is where the eyedropper comes into play. This will not only allow us to select a more specific shade of red, but it will also allow us to select multiple shades if necessary. Just like the regular eyedropper tool in Photoshop, clicking on your desired color will create the sample. You'll see in the preview that our active area just became smaller, but the white has become more pure, which will result in a much stronger selection. Of course, now it needs to be expanded. This can be done in one of two ways. The first method is with the fuzziness slider towards the top. This controls how strict or loose Photoshop is with similar shades. For example, increasing the fuzziness will include more reds that are similar to your initial sample. As it's increased, more and more reds start to become included, but you may notice that some objects in the background are starting to seep in as well. We'll touch on that in a moment. The second method is a little bit more precise. Once you've made your initial selection, holding down your Shift key will allow you to sample additional shades to add them to your final selection. With each click, more of the jacket is becoming sampled, which you can see in the preview below. Of course, at the same time, you can also tweak the fuzziness to get as accurate of a selection as you need. However, as you can see at the top of the preview, there's a few reddish items that snuck into our selection. So how do we deal with those? Well, holding your Alt or Option key will allow you to subtract from your sample, but that will, in return, remove some of the red in the jacket as well. You may have noticed the Localized Color Clusters checkbox above the fuzziness slider. When you turn this option on, Photoshop will take note of where you've been sampling and create a radius around that point based on the range percentage slider. In this case, we want to decrease the range to tighten the radius around our samples. This will exclude anything outside that radius from being included in your selection. Then, once you've tightened up your radius, you'll be able to safely increase the fuzziness to strengthen up your sample even more. Alright, so at this point I think we have a pretty strong selection. Again, everything in white will be turned into a selection, which can be done by pressing OK. Now, even after the selection has been made, if you notice any areas that got included that you don't want included, you can easily grab any one of your selection methods and holding down your Alt or Option key, outline the areas that you don't want included to exclude them. As it stands now, the jacket's selected, but that's the object we want to leave intact. If we wanted to turn everything else black and white, we first need to inverse the selection, which can be done either under the Select menu or with a shortcut combination. Command-Shift-I on the Mac or Control-Shift-I on Windows. Now we can go ahead and add an adjustment of choice. To make sure we're editing non-destructively, I'm going to add a black and white adjustment layer. Beautiful, and because I use an adjustment layer, if I notice any subtle red spots that snuck through, I can easily remove them by painting with a white brush on the layer mask. So that's how you can use ColorRange to single out specific colors in your photo. But before I end this video, I want to show you one more ColorRange feature that was introduced in Photoshop CS6. Many times, especially when retouching a photo, editors want a quick way to select the skin tones of the image, to make color changes, or to apply blur filters. In previous versions of Photoshop, ColorRange helped out a bit, but it wasn't that effective. Now in Photoshop CS6, hopping back into ColorRange, there's a new Skin Tones option under the Select dropdown, which automatically detects and samples known skin tones in your image. And if that's not enough, if you're only looking to select skin tones on your subject's face, there's also a Detect Faces checkbox. But if you want my honest opinion, it doesn't always do the best job at detecting faces. Stick with just the skin tones option and exclude what you don't want once the selection has been made. And that will do it for ColorRange, another fantastic way to create advanced selections in Photoshop. We'll see you in the next video.